All right, well, good morning, everybody. Thank you all for being here in person and being here virtually with us this morning. Last week at our press conference about legislative priorities, I promised that there was a proposal coming from our House and Senate Democrats to put money back in people's pockets at a time when West Virginia is doing well. And so that's what we're here today to present to you. So, short and sweet. Our proposal is to cut the sales tax from the current 6% rate to 4.75% initially, and then cut it by an additional 1/4 point, 0.25%, if the state continues to do well financially over time. Why we think this is important is that it's a tax cut for everybody. This helps every single West Virginian. This helps every single West Virginia business. We can afford it right now. Times are good right now in West Virginia, and we can build on this if the economy continues to be strong. We can also keep our bond ratings high at exactly the same time. So this allows us, in a very simple way, to do all three of those things in one fell swoop. We all know that inflation is up right now due to the pandemic. Folks are struggling just to pay their bills for the everyday things that they need. And this is going to help ease that burden for every single West Virginian by putting money back in people's pockets to help them pay for the things that they need each day. This proposal would give us the lowest sales tax in the region, and that would give us an advantage over our surrounding states. And last but not least, and I think Leader Skaff is going to touch on this more later on, I just want to briefly mention, this cost us the same as the incentives offered to Nucor last week. And it shows that we can invest in our people and invest in bringing businesses to West Virginia at the same time. This is not an either-or situation. This is a both-and situation. So this is a tax cut for everybody. That's a quick overview. Next, I want to invite Senator Lindsay up and then Leader Skaff, and just so we can talk a little bit more about the details, and then we're happy to take anybody's questions. Thank you. Senator Lindsay?
Yes. Thank you. Last week I was proud to vote for the legislation that allowed us to be able to invest in businesses like Nucor and not necessarily green power, that came from another source, but invest in Nucor because I believe in bringing jobs. I think it's going to create around 1,000 jobs. But as Senator Baldwin just said, we can do both. In fact, the public expects us to do both. Not just to invest in business opportunities, not just to invest in industry, not just to invest in West Virginia workers, but our families as well. So it's not an either-or thing, and it makes a significant difference in the lives of our people and families. Regardless of whether you're in Roane County, Clay County, Jackson County, or the west side of Charleston, West Virginia, this will benefit you. This will make a difference in putting food on the table, taking care of electric bills. Specifically, if you have a household income of $30,000 and a family of 3, that would be a benefit of over $150. If you have a family of 3 and have a household income of $70,000, that's a benefit of over $200. And families can use that money for their essential needs and push back on things that we don't have control over, like inflation, like high gas prices. We have a couple ideas on electric bills and water bills that we hope to accomplish this session, but can address that particular need as well. We believe this is just a great policy for West Virginia, and we believe it's a great policy for our West Virginia families. I hope and pray that the leadership here in the legislature, in the Senate, and the House look at this seriously and decide to invest in West Virginians. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Senator, and thanks for everybody for being here. And I'll be brief and just echo the comments. But last week, we did what we had to do to compete with the rest of the country and our surrounding states. We were given the opportunity to be creative, think differently, and do some things to help entice new companies to come to West Virginia that would create jobs. And that happened. And I'm excited to say we did that as a bipartisan effort last week. Now it's time. The question is, what can we do for all of our West Virginians? What can we do to put our current residents and West Virginians first? Well, like Senator Lindsay said, I think we have a great opportunity. Our governor and leadership continue to talk about how great our economy is. here this year are collections from tax revenue, as well as severance taxes and surpluses that we continue to see month over month. Well, now it's time to invest back in our people and back in everyday West Virginians. And how do you do that? By giving everybody a fair cut across the board on the sales tax. What's this mean for small businesses? What's this mean for all businesses in West Virginia? Well, when you have more money to spend, they look at that total dollar that they spend. By reducing the sales tax, I think people actually, and it's proven in other studies, they will buy more goods and services. They will spend more money, but at a reduced rate. Not only are they get a chance to save, but it also helps our businesses grow and continue, where people will continue to spend their hard-earned money, but then in addition to, they get to save it. So we are blessed with the opportunity from a surplus. And like I said, there's opportunity to trigger mechanisms to continue to help the people of West Virginia. By putting these trigger mechanisms, we're being responsible. We're considering we're not affecting the rainy day fund. We're only contributing to helping put money back in West Virginians' pockets when we have a windfall of surplus money. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Delegate Lisa Zukoff for a few more comments.
Thank you. Thanks for being here, and thanks for being at home listening. We are really excited about this opportunity. We hear from a lot of folks, especially our seniors and those retirees on fixed incomes, about the struggles that they face making their everyday bills, going to the grocery store, and paying for their prescription drugs. And this tax cut will help those everyday West Virginians. I live in the northern panhandle, border counties. We can be in 15 minutes, we can be in 3 different states. This will make West Virginia's sales tax the lowest to our Ohio neighbors and our Pennsylvania neighbors, which will encourage folks to come into our state to participate in our economy and help us further. So I'm excited to be here this morning, and I hope that this can truly be a bipartisan effort across the board to help all West Virginians.
Thank you, Delegate Zukoff. All right, well, thank you everyone for being here. One thing, I'm really in favor of this. I think anytime you can cut a sales tax, it's great, as we've heard mentioned. It's going to put money in people's pockets. It's going to, bring people from other states over into our state to possibly do some shopping and things like that. The reason I really like it, though, is because I believe in fair taxation. And sales tax is regressive tax. And so people at the lower end of the economic scale tend to put in more of their money into that particular tax. And so I think this will make things a little more even for everyone. And it will help people out at the lower end of the scale. And they're the ones that are going to be taking that money more than anyone and putting it back in to the economy. And so not only will we help the people, but we'll help businesses, and this will just kind of prime the pump and get things going. So I'm excited about that. And when I was a young boy, I remember where I grew up, the sales tax was 4%. And it just, of course, kept climbing and climbing. It's just nice for once to be able to actually lower this down. So I'm very much in favor of it. Thank you very much.
Well, I'll just briefly say, I'm new to the Senate. This is only my second year here, but I've been around about 25 years, and it's rare that we can do something that benefits everyone. I mean, this is a win-win for business. This is a win-win for your neighbor. It's a huge win for our border counties. And I just want to reflect on what President Blair said in his acceptance speech when he accepted the presidency of the Senate. He said he didn't care if it was a Democrat idea. He didn't care if it was a Republican idea. All he cared was it a good idea. And I think we've nailed that. This is a good idea. And we welcome our friends from across the aisle to join us in sponsoring this legislation. It's a win for the people. And I want to commend the leadership of the minority party in both the House and Senate for working so diligently, and our staff for putting the numbers together so we can reflect accurate numbers to real people and real families in different economic ranges of income. So thank you all for that. And again, we really think this is a home run, and we welcome our friends and colleagues from across the aisle to please join us in this effort.
Folks have any questions here in person? Okay, we've got some online. We'll go in person first.
2 questions, one more of a technical one and the other more about process. The $312.5 million, that would be from the initial 1.25% cut, correct?
Right, the initial 1.25% cut costs about $312 million.
Okay. Second question is this. I know the court cases are still working their way through the system, though I think the courts have sided with the states in regards to the Treasury and the guidance in regards to prohibiting tax cuts and backfilling with ARPA money. I know that's not what you're talking about, but I know that's kind of scared some states from doing anything with tax cuts for a time being. The courts seem to be siding with, I think, the states on it so far, but is that something you all have looked into as an issue?
Yeah, and that's a very good point, and I don't think it's a concern because of the revenue source that we're looking at here. So, but a very good point and a good question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What conversations have you had so far with Republican leadership? Do you think this has enough support to even get on a committee agenda right now?
I've had conversations with Republican leadership about this bill, and I think they're open to ideas that benefit West Virginians. As Senator Caputo said, they've said publicly, it doesn't matter if it's a Republican idea or a Democratic idea, a good idea is a good idea. And so we have had initial conversations, and I'm hopeful that those will lead to the further conversations and the bill being put on agenda and eventually being up for a vote. Because as Senator Caputo said, this is a win-win. I mean, this is a good thing for every single West Virginian. This is a good thing for West Virginia business. I think that people expect us to work together, to come to Charleston and work together, and this seems to me a perfect way to do that, and a really simple way to do that. Brittany, did you say there were some questions?
There are. The first one is for Senator Lindsay. David Beer would like you to repeat the second figure. The family of three is earning how much?
Yes, a family of three earning $70,000 in total household income is a benefit of just over $200 that they would receive, which would go a long way, again, when we're talking about the increased costs on our families and working folks. And just to kind of tag on what Senator Baldwin just mentioned, you know, everyone always has been told when you get up here, don't pick winners and losers. We're not in the business of picking winners and losers. Well, this bill has the benefit of everyone winning. We're not picking this industry or that investment or this part of the state. It's for all of West Virginia. And West Virginia will, I truly do believe, will benefit substantially from this investment.
Second question we've kind of already addressed from Charles John. Is there any Republican support for this idea? We'll want to elaborate on that, or?
All I can tell you is it's been discussed with leadership, just what Senator Baldwin said, and to tell you, I hope it does. I hope that this bill ends up on a committee list. The people of West Virginia should at least get a fair hearing on the ins and outs and how they benefit with this tax package and tax cut for all West Virginians.
And just to follow up on that, I mean, every elected official, all they want to do is they create a fair tax system. You hear everybody talking about it, Republicans and Democrats. Well, when given the opportunity, because of our revenues and because of all West Virginians putting so much into the economy right now, it's time to give back. And I think that's not a Democratic issue or a Republican issue. That should be every elected official who's up here today that has the power to give back to every West Virginian. You ask some of my Republican colleagues specifically, would you like to reduce taxes? They would say yes. Well, now's a chance to do it. So I'm calling on all of them. Let's be creative, work together. We might have a different idea how to get there, but I think we can do it together. I'd love to make this a bipartisan support and support all West Virginians.
Another question. Are there some revenue triggers for this, or are both steps just automatic?
So that's a good question. Just to repeat it, are there revenue triggers for this or are both steps automatic? The first is automatic. So the 1.25% reduction from 6% to 4.75% is automatic. Beyond that, if the state continues to do well economically, and the specific trigger for that would be the rainy day fund. If and when the rainy day fund hits $1.1 billion, which we are close to that now, then it would trigger an additional 0.25% reduction. So that would, let's say the rainy day fund, this passes, we have the initial 1.25% reduction, rainy day fund hits $1.1 billion, the reduction comes down to 4.5%, paying a 4.5% sales tax. And that could happen again in the future depending on the particular language of the bill. So the better the state does, the more that this can continue.
Follow-up question on that too. Is there anything limiting that? Not being an autonomous, I would presume that the likelihood of phasing out the consumer sales tax is probably not likely. However, but there doesn't seem to be a limit on that. So if the state were to keep hitting that mark, conceivably you could phase out the entire consumer sales tax.
Conceivably. It depends on how it's particularly written, and we have a bill that we are dropping today with legislative services. We are happy to work on particular pieces of language like that. If there are disagreements about the points. I mean, it's a small point, but I think it's an important point. If we all want to provide a tax cut for everybody, there are many ways to get there. This is, I think, a good vehicle, and so the particulars, we're happy to work on that. But yes, as it is written right now, it could happen multiple times.
Thank you.
Mark Curtis asks, is this paid for with the budget surplus?
Yes, it's paid for with the budget surplus. And we're looking at a $700 to $900 million surplus right now for the coming year. We think it's important to give that money back to West Virginians. So, we did the Nucor deal, which we all agree was a good thing for West Virginia. Cost around $315 million. This is an investment right back to the people of West Virginia at the same amount. And we have the money to do both in the budget this year.
That's all for the chat.
Richard, you want to close it out?
Well, just to thank everyone for being here on what I believe to be a momentous piece of legislation and an occasion, and something that Senator Baldwin mentioned and I think needs to be repeated. This is a responsible piece of legislation that is directly linked to the prosperity of this state. And, that I can't think of a better situation or a better set of circumstances to, again, give relief to all West Virginians. So, thank you for being here today, and you all have a good day and stay warm.